and so do the days of our rides. Yes, I am live and I'm coming from Las Vegas. We're on holiday and I figured this could be an opportunity to just dive into a live segment. Therefore, I don't have seeing other contributors out there. And it's type of where it's, yeah, Trek. We got to talk about that. There's a big elephant. I do think I have a chat up. Anyway, I hope I'm not sideways. That's not right. So throw in the chat if you see me sideways. Oh, my video is. So is this gonna be better? Let's give it a second to upload there. I thought I did the. Yeah, good point. The cycling industry is going sideways. That's a good way of putting it. I was hoping to get a palm tree in the background, that kind of thing. But yeah, I got a couple. Okay, cool. Thanks. Let's roll with this. So we got to go. Be able to go forwards, you got to go backwards. Look back to go, hopefully 2 steps forward. What we're looking at in industry. Yeah, 2023 was a booger of a year for a lot of us, and it still is, and still continued to. I read a couple articles that really kind of sparked my interest, that kind of thing of, hey, this is what the industry is kind of at as a pulse. I'll get to that in a minute. And as a follow-up, I'm going to talk about at the end here about a conversation of, well, what's it going to look like for a small independent bike person as myself, and what's the indicators of here going forward, that kind of thing. So first, I want to dive into, the 2023. Yeah, we're going towards the end, and one little side note I found on a local news here was very interesting. Is Las Vegas obviously is the marriage capital of the world, right? Apparently, 123 123, the date, which is tomorrow, is apparently a big thing for a lot of people to get married. So, side note, you come to Vegas, go get married tomorrow. I don't know. We may redo our vows. We've been married for 10 years, but anyway, that's kind of a fun little side note. Didn't know until yesterday. I was like, I didn't even hear of this thing. But anyway, going into 2023, let's start off with the bike companies. The bike companies themselves, we're talking about Canyon, Trek, Specialized, Giant, Pond Holdings, which carries like GT and a couple other brands, I believe. So in those situations, we're looking at those. With the last year, what they've seen a shift in the Kona is another one I saw a shift with, is they went to dealer direct, or I'm sorry, direct to customer. Basically, they're shipping from their warehouse going in. Canyon already sparked this. They already kind of proven the platform of this years back. Scared the pants off of Trek and Specialized. Specialized started doing that a little over a year now. Canyon and some of the smaller brands or more niche brands are going to start doing that, or already have. And I don't see that changing. It's going to continue to go that way. And we want to pick on Trek a little bit this video in the sense that they are doing that with they opened up their used platform called the Red Barn. Well, it's been out about 6 months now, that kind of thing. And they are tapping into the used market, which there was high anticipation. They would kind of go after the pros plaza type of perspective, that kind of thing. What I've seen so far, not the case. Not the case whatsoever. So when we're looking at that particular situation, to me, what they are doing is kind of laying out the groundwork of direct to consumer with their regular line. They're actually doing kind of like a baby step profile. They only have a few hundred bikes on their website for the Red Barn, which I thought was kind of crazy to believe, because I think that with all their locations and so forth, you'd think they would In a situation where they would actually have a lot more bikes because they're doing these trade-ins from all their locations, which are now brick and mortar locations, and they're supposed to ship from there. That's Trek. And what I've all seen really is kind of just a year or two model of, you know, one of those things they're just throwing out there, like, their leftover demo bikes from their Trek travel or employee demos, something like that. It's not necessarily a full spectrum of used bikes, and the pricing is not great whatsoever. So looking at those things, those are kind of bizarre. Trek is changed in a 360 kind of thing. So looking at those industry companies that actually driven the bike market for all these years, that's kind of like your indicator. So the second thing to look back on, those companies that have had some hardships, layoffs, and so forth. And when you're shooting forward now, you're looking at bike shops and the foot traffic and the slowdown and the margins on that. And I want to touch a point on this. I read an article that was featured in Bicycle Retailer, which is an industry, basically gossip column magazine that everybody reads in the industry. It's called Brain. And that particular one, oh, I got a copy of it here. This is the hard copy. But you can look it up online. And they did a thing like talking to direct dealers or bike shop owners and how 2023 is and what goes into 2024. I'm going to put a spotlight on Wheel and Sprocket. They were my former company that I worked for Retail Toolkit. They had a software program. Well, anyway, the owner now is Noel with his two sisters, left behind their father that passed away a couple years ago. Well, they're up in Wisconsin. They have 11 stores. And why I bring this up is this cat has a pulse on the bike industry in full. Noel is a super smart guy. He's one that helped develop this program and everything else. They have 11 stores. He's also a part of the P2 groups that my former boss at Recycler is a part of. And everybody looked at Noel of like, hey, you're the one that has all the answers. I met the guy. He's really nice. And he doesn't have all the answers, but he did release some information about his locations. And they've had a decrease in sales, which is understandably in 2023 to about 16%. And the other kicker to the gut is their margins are down 23%. So when you're looking at those two numbers, you got the scale down of numbers of people walking in and buying stuff, which is pretty significant. Less than 10%, more than 10%, which is potentially harmful to the bike industry as a bike shop. And then you have margins are even getting cut more. Well, yeah, you have some of those talks about margins are inflated and that kind of thing and so forth. Well, guess what? The companies that they buy from, Trek, Specialized, and Giant, whoever, they get that, they buy that, and they don't get rebated at a discounted price when later on Specialized decides to dump their stuff, or as well as Trek. They're kind of stuck with that high cost, and then they have to deal with the discount, so their margin gets shrunken down as well. So it is a double stinger on that particular thing. So when you're looking at the bike shops, they got that pinch that are independent. Trek and Specialized, they're going to stick around because they have deeper margins because they're indirect. Even though Specialized doesn't have as many stores, Trek has definitely embraced this and just ran with it like a crazy insanity. Well, the other topic of the 23 is supply chain. We all know this in the sense from any perspective. You're looking at from eggs to kayaks to tooling system, whatever. They were shortaged and then they built too much, and now they have too much. Now they got to dump it all out. Well, one of the talking heads I heard out there, they were talking to the industry people within like Quality Bike Supply, JB Importers, and a couple other various suppliers. They don't necessarily do like big lines like Trek and Specialized, but they do all the parts, right? And they do the chains, cassettes, and Groupos, and all those kinds of cool things. Well, they're talking they have close to 5 years worth of inventory. That's a lot to hold on to because a lot of smaller bike shops, they only buy when they want it. And they've gotten really smart over the years. It's buy on demand. And that puts those particular companies in a pinch because they got bills to pay that are overseas to Sram and Specialized or wherever, or not Specialized, but Shimano, whoever that built their stuff up for their proprietary products. Well, those prices you've already seen it. The prices have already dropped quite a bit. And I think that is going to carry on to 24 and probably on then some, which is a good indicator of a repricing adjustment. They're all talking about it. It's like, well, yeah, and we're all going to have to live with the thinner margins. And back in the day before the big boom, they were living with these thinner margins, and they just thought they could keep these larger margins longer, which is kind of sad. But that goes into pricing. Price is going to drop, and hopefully they will drop to a point where they can do a proper adjustment in the sense that you're not getting bad quality stuff for a lesser product. We've already kind of seen that in a lot of the industry and years coming up to this, like 2023 road bikes. Let's just pick on them. Their cheapest road bikes out there from Trekking Specialized around $1,200. $1,200 with the lowest of low. I mean, that's still a big pill people get into riding, especially for road. They do have mountain bikes and hikes and so forth a little bit cheaper, but the thing is with that is it's just going to be it's just kind of difficult to see a customer go in and they look at those prices. Well, that's one of those things I'm going to talk about on the flip side of 2024. But what's been hurting a lot of the bike shops is they have their more elite status signature, and they didn't even try to do this. It's just the prices on the bikes that they carry from this manufacturer are that MSRPs are built from those companies, so they don't have that control until they can actually allow a discount. Well, those high-end price points, like Trek, your $1,500, $1,300 road bike to start, but anybody walks in, if they even have those on the floor, they're still going, that's overpriced, and look at everything else, overpriced. They may not even come into the store and talk to anybody. They come in the store and walk right out, because that happens a lot, because it's just too boutique-y. Like, not boutique-y, but too high-end, like Porsche. Like, you're afraid to test ride anything. You're actually afraid to talk to a salesperson who's going to felt like you're going to be pushed down on selling or being pertinent to purchase those kind of things. So that's where the pricing has really kind of pinched a lot of the different, those different type of small business or smaller businesses, that kind of thing. So going back to Will and Sprocket, they're a big Trek dealer in the Wisconsin, Chicago area. Great, they have great people and they have a great following, and they do have, people that they've been around for a long time. And for them to release lower numbers like, hey, we're hurting too, and the prediction is going to be more of the same for 2024. And they're feeling the pinch from all the vendors that they brought up, because they got the same scenario. Like, the price points are not there from the manufacturer, which is a stinger. And lastly, for 2023, our economical shakeup has just been brutal. Interest rates constantly going up. Things start to come down in price a little bit on gas and so forth, but that doesn't offset the common normal consumer, like you people out there buying stuff like everybody else. You go in and go, oh my God, I didn't even realize it was that expensive to buy some crab legs. It's insane. And just for food to, just your normal basic stuff is still expensive. So it has not fit, a readjustment. And that readjustment, as we've seen in years past, it takes a while. It's a big ship. It's like the Titanic. You just can't turn it right quickly. It's one of those things that's going to take its time. But it needs to start going in the right direction, which I think it is. But it's going to take more than just a year to get over, right? It's going to take a little bit more time to get inertia and going forward from there. All right, I'm going to shift gears to other things that the notable highlights. The e-bike boom is still going. It's probably slowed down a little bit, but it's still there. The prices have decreased on a lot of parts, so people are buying parts and parts kits like the Sram Grupos. They went down like almost half price this year, and they're still that way. And there's still a big community activity. I mean, I still had a lot of activity with my other channels. I mean, I've been building up YouTube for the last year, so of course I've seen that increase, which thank you for watching and being a part of this community. But on the flip side, I've seen in my other channels where there's been more interest, people are getting into doing those charity rides and recreational rides and group rides and so forth. So that's been definitely a positive. It hasn't died off as well. It's just people are a little more price savvy for sure. And of course they talk to each other like, oh, I need a new chain. Well, you go here and get it for $20 instead of $50, that kind of thing. And you know, and then the investors are still holding strong so far with most companies. And there's the race tours are back. So if you're following all like Tour de France or the Tour d'Italia and all, Giro d'Italia, those kind of races and so forth, those are back in full swing. There's not that COVID cutbacks. I mean, they're still affected a little bit this year, I know, but in a sense that those are you get those following those pipelines are going like 100%. You get those viewerships, people watching, and that kind of thing. That's really cool. The lows, supply chain, inflation of like inflated bites like the cost of things, materials, and also we got like the Ukraine war still going on. We got the Israel thing going on, and that does affect just comfort level for a lot of people, just to throw it out there. And that does affect economics in the sense of people who are willing to spend more money and so forth. And are hopefully the interest rates will drop and the Feds will start dropping those here in the States, so they kind of help get us back to being more comfortable. So here we are. We're on the cusp of 2024. What we're going to look at. Let's start off again with the bike brands. They're going to be there's just going to be more direct to customer sales. The bike companies are like Trek and Specialized. They're going to build and develop their more stores. But with Trek, I would say they saw this in the tea leaves more than Specialized and other companies, in the sense that they were really aggressively moving their service department to 24-hour service. Now they have a suspension service, where they ship the suspension shocks, so forth, to their locations to be rebuilt and sent back. And they're also doing the used bike funnel as well with the Red Barn. So as for Trek, they have definitely seen this, and they understand. They took their learnings and they're going forward with it, which is good. And that's what you're supposed to do. They're aggressively going so much at the retail level, in the sense that having their local, their stores and so forth. This is the mic drop, basically, moment of Trek. They basically have gone away from their independent bike dealers. And that hurts me in the sense because my parents' bike shop, Parker Bikes, through the late 80s to the early 2000s, we were a Trek dealer from day one to the day we closed. So being a brand that we had, that we helped promote, that we were pushing that product, we were making that brand, building that brand for them as a Trek dealer, and then they're basically, they're pretty much just, if you're not seeing it, you're gonna see it. I don't think they're opening up very many independent bike dealers. Not that anybody's crazy enough to jump into the industry right now, but they have basically snuffed it for their brand to be independent bike dealers. If you were opening a bike shop right now, and if you were in a remote area where there was no Trek dealer, okay, sure, that would maybe make sense. But if you're in an area that has other Trek dealers or the Trek stores corporate, there's no way you're going to pick up that line. There's no way you should keep that line. I mean, that's a tough pill. And I know a store in Castle Rock, Colorado, that carries Trek and Specialized, and they're small. And somehow they're appealing, and both companies approached them to buy them, and they're like, nope. And they have not yet moved in, but at some point they'll pop a store in, kind of like the whole Blockbuster thing. So looking at companies like that, Trek they're no longer the independent bike dealer Trek company as we known as yesterday. They're evolving into some big monster that I don't know where it's going to go. And are they going to fail? They're too smart at this point. They have a lot of things going for them, setting the groundwork for different directions, from the retail stores to used market, that kind of thing. They're pretty smart. I think they have a little bit of an edge over Specialized. Pond is trying to do their own thing. Pond Holdings, not the Pond Shop. Pond Holdings, which carries, I think, Canada and a couple other brands as well. And they're moving in under the Mike's Bikes name. And then you have Canyon. And the Canyon actually reported some positive numbers. Margins were down, but sales were up. So that's kind of a direction that you wanted to see, after coming from this all low. So looking at the companies for 2024, Canyon's going to do well, direct to customer. Trek is probably going to switch over to direct to customer here soon. Specialized, once they get their stuff squirreled away and figured out of too much inventory and all that, they're going to probably do that. And if they figure out their stores, they're going to dive into that as well. Trek also had a slow learning curve when they were buying stores directly. Lee Cycler is one of like the first acquisitions that they purchased about 6 years ago now, and it took them about a good 2 years to kind of cut their teeth at the retail perspective of it. Yeah, they're companies and they preach retail, but they didn't live retail. And living retail, the day-to-day with employees, insurance, and buildings, and bills, and all that stuff, that was kind of a shocker. And maintaining good employees and that kind of deal, that was tough on them too. Specialized, I think, still in that learning curve state, but they are quick learners and they're very aggressive. Everything they do is aggressive. So if they're going to go for it, they're going to hit it hard. And probably 2024, 2025, you'll see probably a good third to double their footprint in stores if they're smart in the retail perspective. Another part that's painful for the independent bike dealers. I'm not giving that suggestion, and this hurts me to give these kind of news. Believe me, it's one of those situations where we should still have the independent bike dealers, and you have your dealership relationships, but unfortunately, those relationships have been dissolved. It's just unfortunately painful, and not talking about it doesn't mean it's still not going to happen. So here we are today and going forward. So I talked about a lot about the biking companies. Well, the bike shops, what are they going to do in 2024? Well, they're going to have to find their niche. And thinking about this, back in the day, we were a Trek dealer. We carried a lot of Trek. We carried Schwinn, GT, Mongoose. And you're like, oh, these are all the brands of department stores right now. Oh, yeah, they had a big old shift in the 90s, but which is owned by Pond Holdings, I believe. Long story, but anyway, that's a whole nother segment. But when you're looking at the bike shops and looking back then, it's like we should have been building not necessarily the brands that we carried. We should have been building ourselves as the brand, which a lot of learnings from the last decade or so. That like now, I'm a Noah Guy Bicycles. I'm building I Know a Guy Bicycles brand. I'm selling Trek and Specialized and so forth as the used market products, but I'm building my branding. And that's where bike shops, independent bike shops, really, if they have not already, they're going to build those branding to generate those communities for people to come in and have their bike service and so forth. That's where they're going to shift gears and go to the warm hug if they haven't gone all the way there, which they should have been, because the warm hug's been lost a long time ago. And looking at bike shops, this is another video I was watching from one of the very popular talking heads. I'm sure half of you guys are subscribed to him, and he's a guy out of Florida, GC Sports or something like that. Seems like a nice guy, quite a few followers. I watched a couple of his videos, and the more recent one was he was talking about road bikes, which is kind of like my backyard and what I'm pretty much focusing right now on. And he was talking about the cost of road bikes and entry level and so forth, and like the lowest price, but these are Specialized dealers. So the lowest price Specialized is around $1,200. Okay, and it has the bottom on the bottom, an 8-speed Claris componentry on it. I know this might sound Greek to some of you, but basically it's the lowest and stuff, almost below the lowest. There's one that's called turning, which nobody wants to touch. But the Claris, it does work kind of good, but you're talking about $1,200, man. I mean, $1,200 bucks, that's a lot for anybody just to get a road bike just to start riding. If they're riding already, okay, they might get into it, but and here's the thing I wanted to talk about. And let me take a sip of my Las Vegas coffee. Because I drip it all over myself. So he was saying there was a lack of people coming in looking for the lower entry bikes. That customer is not coming into the store anymore. So he's thinking about shifting gears and selling more carrying more mid-range to upper end. He's talking about $2,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 bikes. And he's like saying, well, those customers just don't exist. They all exist. They're still there. They're just not going into that guy's shop because the first thing they see is the 12,000, the 3,000, the $10,000 bike on the floor, and they're walking right out. They're not having that conversation. That might be, it might be kind of a stretch. I don't know those market dynamics to the T, but I have a good feeling that's what's going on in his market. Like that's where that low end market has just disappeared. Why? Because the people are feeling like that's a Porsche shop. And you need to do more grassroots marketing. Like, we'll get you in road riding. We got a road ride package. We have this. We got some great used road bikes to get you into road riding, or whatever the popular niche that is, or style of riding there is in your market. That's what they need to be working towards, which really kind of made me kind of like, really? You're just not really seeing it because you used to have those customers coming in, and you're blaming the bike companies not having that price point, but you don't. There is a clear path here that they can go buy. You even mentioned it. You saw cheap bikes out there on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and other of those, and it's like, oh, they're really brought down. The prices are gone down. Someone's like, go there and buy some of those, fix them up, and provide a fitting when you buy these to get those people to lead in. And yeah, it's a little extra work, but at the end of the day, you get a better, solid customer for long term. I mean, that's what you're really trying to do. You need to build up your brand, not the Specialized brand or the Trek brand or whatever brand it is. So that's where I'm thinking that bike shops are a lot of them in 2024 are going to, if they haven't hit the wall already, they're going to have to do some major adjustments. And you're going to see any companies go down. Well, you're probably not going to see Trek totally lose it. You're not going to see Specialized totally lose it, or Pond. There's too much money and time and investment there. Those companies are in for the long haul. But the supply chain companies like J&B, Quality Bike Supply, and if you don't know what these companies are, these are the ones that sell the bike shops directly for small parts. And they are going to probably hit the wall because we've already seen this in Europe. And the Wiggle company and Chain Reaction, they went down. Wiggle, I think, went out because their investor pulled out, totally flattened the whole line. So you're now seeing the lines I carry, like Virtus and Nuke Proof, you're seeing those discounted like half price on Jameis USA, which used to be a vendor back in the day. Also Planet Cycler, you're seeing those prices are like cut in half because you need to get rid of that product. And that's a pre-indicator, which a lot of European cycling market is a pre-indicator what's going to happen here in the US a lot of times, where you might see a JB totally collapse, or I don't think Quality Bike Supply will, but they could, or they'll close a facility and shrink down. They may have those crap levers to kind of scale down, layoffs and so forth, which you may not hear very much in the industry, but what that was going to do is cut down the funnel of parts getting out there. So that's going to be kind of an interesting little twist if that kind of thing goes down, but I don't think it's sustainable for some of these companies that blew up, that are the smaller ones, or just supply chain ones, and they're not going to sustain. It might be pretty ugly for them, unfortunately. And going to prices, I hope the prices will go down, but where you're going to get for that price is going to be the question. Is it going to be junk? Is it just something they're going to throw out there? That's going to be a longer adjustment for them, because I don't think even though they're discounting a whole bunch of stuff right now, they're kind of in their head blaming the economics and so forth, not their price structuring. So until they get, economics is good, we're still not selling anything, well, now you're going to have to really figure it out. We'll see. We'll see if they're going to listen to the talking heads and read into the tea leaves to this. But I think Trek and Specialized and Giant and Pond Holdings, they need to knock down an entry-level bike and make it almost like they used to do in the day. They didn't make very much money off their lower-end bikes, and nor did the bike shops, but it was that lead-in bike to get people into cycling. Well, that's not there anymore. They need to build that back up. That's going to be a whole bunch of marketing. They're going to have a product to support that. They need their $700 road bike again. And all those things need to come back in place. That's going to take about a year or two for them to get squirrels all straightened out. It's like herding cats with these guys when they're trying to like talk into apartments and so forth. So when you're looking at that perspective of pricings, you're going to see a whole bunch of discounted. And if you have or you feel comfortable buying something right now, go for it. But I'm sure enough about 90% of the people that are already that would or have the money and want to buy something nice, they bought it because it's already discounted for a while now. So them continuously discounts, it's just not a good. I don't think their inventory is just going to move, which is just kind of crazy. And hopefully the economics, going into from pricing to economics, hopefully the economics has improved. It's election year. It's kind of weird for us here. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's weird. I think it's going to be more than weird, more of the same. It's like a lot of people are more comfortable scaling with. But I think there's going to be an improvement. And for me, weather was a hindering last year because we had a very cold spring that went into June. For me, locally in Colorado, if the weather's a little bit nicer to begin with, I might be able to recover a couple months of those lost sales and people being more active. So if the weather's right and people are feeling comfortable of buying things, that's going to be good for going into 2024. I'm hopefully optimistic. I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but the Trek and the Specializes are going to be poo-poo cocking on the independent bike shops, and I'm going to go into that a little bit locally in the Four Columns. I had a conversation with a local dealer there that carried Specialized after Specialized moved in. But, those are kinds of things. In 2024, the AI prediction is more e-bikes. Well, that's going to be the case with a lot of people commuting. Hint, hint, people are wanting commuting and recreational riding, big companies. They're looking for healthness and trends and that they're going to go positive there because we've all I got the flu and COVID in the last 3 months, and I also have been vaccinated. So life's been kind of rough and health-wise for me. So I'm like looking for I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to ride all the bikes that I have, and I'm going to still work on a lot of bikes, but I'm going to cut out time and make that a priority. Where a lot of people are in the same boat. They're like, that's where you're going to, we need to get healthy, that kind of thing. And the urban structures, group rides and so forth, and the long terms, your local governments are building bike paths, bike lanes, and so forth. And hopefully, there's a lot of people advocating for that in your communities, which is hopefully the case. The challenges are going to be overcoming for 2024 is the supply chain disruptions. They got to get that all figured out. The rising costs need to come down. We will definitely see that. Hopefully, the global situations de-escalate, so there's less war. That does affect everything. And in the safety concerns of riding your bike. Some people, I don't like riding road bikes because I'm out in traffic. I don't have the ability to go into that bike path. So if they get into mountain biking, hopefully, or into some other kind of destinational recreational riding, that kind of thing. So there are some technological advancements. Yeah, there's some of those that came out in 2023, going to come out in 2024. Some of these companies are going to go, all the stuff they've been holding back for tech advancements, they're going to just release this year because they need to energize in their headset space. They need to energize the new whack-a-mole thing, like the new widget or the new, you saw that in the Slash on the Trek and the new fancy carbon from Specialized. They're trying to get people engaged in that, and it kind of fell on deaf ears because nobody was going to buy that $10,000 bike because they already bought their last year's model for half price. Kevin, wacky, huh? Weird things. So let's get down to it. What's my perspective and what my neighborhood, right? Okay, you got the Trek stores. Well, they're going to do some readjustments. They're going to scale down on some of the locations where they're not working out, which they did in Four Columns. They took 3 stores and made it into 2, and they almost probably should have just made it into 1 because they didn't like the other store, which is, I don't know why they kept it. It was right across the Shields, which is their #1 bike purchaser, Shields, in the States. But anyway, but the soap opera part is those empty locations got filled in with Specialized stores, corporate, instantly. So talking to a Specialized dealer, because they haven't been independent bike Trek dealers in my area for a long time because Trek was there, and before that was the Cycler. Now they're Specialized, and there was like 3 or 4 Specialized dealers that Specialized just kind of just dumped on. And for some reason, they still seem to be okay with that. The Specialized product line, I mean, I'm not bashing their line and stuff. Their stuff is still good, and everybody, it's still marketable, and same as Trek as the products go. When you're looking at different situations where, you know, you still have customers looking for that thing, and what the gentleman was telling me is they are getting customers from the Specialized stores because they go into the corporate store and all those salespeople know is to sell. They're not communal. They're not making a community out of it. They're just forcing, oh, you need to buy this. And then when they go to the local shop that carries Specialized and various other brands, they're getting that more of a warm hug. So there's the secret sauce right there. I mean, yeah, you can still carry that brand if you want, if it works for your mix, but you can still have that community hug and being, work with the customer and that kind of thing. So you're going to see a lot more of that. Well, what's the other indicators? This is kind of the fun one for me. The indicators that I'm going to be seeing, for me personally, you see in the market and how it's going to change, and when you see it's going to be better, guess what the market's going to be that improves first? The used market. The used bicycle market is going to be the first indicator. So right now, Pros Closet, if you know Pros Closet, they're all in used. They do sell new now because they opened up a retail location, technically a location. So they do service and do sales off the floor. Therefore, they're able to sell those brands like Look and some other ones, right? Well, they're going to see an increase in sales, even though their stuff's still really high end. So they need to bring their prices down. But you're going to see guys like me, my sales are going to increase. Once they start increasing, that means there's going to be becoming more of a comfort of people ready to buy, because my stuff's under $1,000 mostly. So that case proves that going forward, if my sales start going up, which I hope they do, because it was a rough year, but if they do start going up, that's going to be a great indication that the rest of the industry is slowly coming out of this. For them, it's going to take a little bit longer. Since I'm small and very flexible and bendy, not physically, but as a business, that way I'm going to be able to capitalize on all the work I've been putting into it. It's going to essentially pay off, and those things are that I put in for service to selling lower end bikes, better purchases, better quality, those kinds of things to get people in, and that communal warm hug. You're going to see a lot more of that trending with other shops. If you don't, they're either going to hurt or crash and burn. I mean, that's how it's going to be. As a consumer, most of us are really burnt out and tired of seeing that high-end elitist shops. We're just done with it. And Trek and Specialized and Pond are super happy to fill that void. So, that's where we're at, kind of in that situation. And, you're looking at those particular, changes where we're going to be seeing, it's going to be a long haul for a lot of them, and for Trek. Basically, they're going to be there, but it's not the Trek that was of yesterday, and you're definitely going to be seeing that going forward. For them, how they see it and what their indicators are, it's good because they'll see the bottom line. That's the end of the day. And what's going to happen for them over time, they're just going to keep going forward. Are they done with independent bike dealers? All indications show they are. Back in the 90s, I'm going to go back in time, Schwinn was a strong company. Schwinn, Trek, and Specialized was up and coming. And Giant was kind of there. So Schwinn was the big company and the big fish to have, which we were a Schwinn dealer. And they crashed and burned because they got too ahead of themselves. They thought they were the end all be all. They thought mountain biking was a fad. And their line just basically suffered from that. And they did try to do a corporate store in Denver, Colorado. And at the tail end, they were like pushing that, oh, we're here to support you, blah, blah, blah. And back then, the independent bike dealers were like, no, that's stupid, go away. And they did it themselves and crashed and burned. Unfortunately, now the independent bike dealers are drilling so fast, there's no strength and weight to that number anymore. So those P2 groups, which is very kind of interesting to bring that point up. those P2 groups. The P2 group is kind of like your bicycle association type thing, where Nolf is part of this that I talked about earlier, Will Sprocket, which when I worked at Retail Toolkit, his product that he was selling, I ended up selling and working with a lot of those P2 group members, and they were big. And guess what? Most of them, if not half the most, are now either been bought by Trek or so on. I'm talking about San Diego Trek. So they had 6 locations in San Diego, Bike Gallery. They had another 7, 8 locations up in Oregon and 1 in New Mexico. So they had a total of like 17, 18, check my math. Locations, they sold to Trek. All those are Trek dealers now. There's David's World, which was all primarily Trek. The Trek Kool-Aid company, they sold to Trek. They had like 12 or 13 stores, huge. And when I saw the back end numbers of these, look, it's massive. And it's just one of those things that it's just, wow. And when you're looking at those bigger dealers, they're going, I'm surprised to still see some of the mid-range dealers are still holding on because they like the sport. They want to be a part of it. And they just need to do some readjustments. Not a lot. They just need to just do a few. And they'll be able to sustain and brand themselves and not be the Trek or Specialized store as they were trying to push back in the early 2000s. Like you had to pick one and be boutique, and that kind of played out the whole groundwork what it is today, which is, you know, just kind of all over the board. But anywho, hopefully optimistic for 2024. Trek is going to be a new version of Trek, and other companies going to follow. I don't see Canyon doing any service centers or any of that nature, but they are using Fellow Effects as their predatory or line for that to work on their bikes and so forth. And yeah, it's been a crazy year. And unfortunately, it's been tough for a lot, and a lot of companies may not survive out of this. Some of the smaller shops have been either acquired or gone out, and unfortunately, that's the bad news. But the good news is it's only up from here, right? Man, I hope so. You know, service needs to improve, bike shop sales, or used bike market. I mean, the prices have gone down, the inventory's there. So if you're in your neck of the woods, I'm sure you're finding things if you're looking. And some people are still trying to sell higher end, like a little more on the high end of the spectrum of what they have and what the true value of those bikes are. Bicycle Blue Book, it is a resource to kind of get a pulse on the bike you're looking for. That's bicyclebluebook.com. And you can plug in your make, model, and year and kind of identify the price structure. But that is not a solid number. That is a algorithm number made up for a company, for Trek, to give you lowball trade-ins. As part of the original concept of this, the Bicycle Blue Book, though, is a good barometer and the start point. If you feel you've seen other bikes do better and you're trying to sell yours, you can price a little bit high and always go down. But when you're looking at buying, that's kind of like when you're mixed. So when I was looking at bikes like just a year ago, my average carbon bikes I was purchasing between $500 to $700, $800 for a full carbon bike. Mixed carbons were around $300 to $400 to $500, and full aluminums are below that. Well, now it's shifted all the way down to, I'm not buying a bike that's a carbon that's over $500 because I'm finding really solid bikes full carbon bikes between $350 to $500, and then you got those mixes. So it's shifted down even in the used market a couple $100 or $100 to when you scale it down. So that being said, when you're looking for used bikes for yourself, getting into road riding and so forth, you can buy that $200 bike, take it to a bike shop. Even though you may have to spend $200 to $300 for parts and labor to get it all fine-tuned, it's still a $500 bike, a $500 to $600 bike, and at the end of the day, that is still half price of the brand new one that's on their sales floor at $1,200. In addition to that bike that's now yours for $600, probably has close to the upper end componentry and better aluminum frame or aluminum carbon. And when you look at that perspective, it's like, okay, the used bike is going to blow the doors off of any bike that's under $2,000 new. So there you have it. That's my little gold nugget for today for looking at used and hopefully push forward and use services like mine. If you buy a used bike and you don't buy it for me or whatever, and you find somebody that can actually do a full tune, making sure it's safe, replace the parts that need to be replaced, not take you out, take advantage of you, but in the sense of making sure it's solid. But they can probably get that bike pretty darn close of riding like newish. And yeah, it may have a couple of scratches on it, but hey, you know what? You're just starting out and you don't want to spend 1,500 bucks on something. There you go. You got yourself an opportunity just to get into road riding without paying all that extra money. Just make sure you figure out the fit of that brand fits you. That's the number one thing you want to start with. But anyhow, well, I've gotten long-winded on a crazy topic. I love all the comments. Unfortunately, it's just me. I can't read I'm not a multitasker, but I appreciate putting the comments down. I will read those comments and those chats, and I will respond to them when it's appropriate. But hey, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me in Las Vegas. We're on a little family trip, and my daughter has decided to take one of my retail Brain magazines is the one. Yeah, we didn't have any paper for her to draw on, so can I draw on these? So I wanted to show you this. Is kind of funny. She took the classifieds and numbered them. I don't know why. I'll have to see why she was. Oh, the Hollywood Racks sales rep was the number one. I think she was just outing in general. But anywho, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for the support. I know it's a squirrely world out there. There'll be more as the wheel turns, so the days are rides. But hey, this is nice in your neck of the woods. Please go out for a ride. Enjoy the fresh air. Get your virtual little ponytail flapping in the wind and having a good time. Anywho, thank you, and back to family time. Yeah, there's a pool behind me. We're going to go swimming in it. And also, what's better than the pool is the hot tub. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.